It now gives me great joy to introduce Joy Verrinder. Joy is a strategic director of the she is the strategic director of the Animal Welfare League of Queensland and its national programs, the National Desexing Network, and Getting to Zero. She works with local and state governments, veterinarians, breeders, the pet industry, and other animal welfare organisations at local, state, and national levels to prevent unwanted cats and dogs. Joy has a doctorate in animal ethics and a master's in business administration and professional ethics and governance. She served on the boards of numerous animal welfare organisations, on government and university animal ethics committees, and on the Australian Government Animal Welfare Strategy Working Group. So please, hands together for Joy Verrinder.
Good morning, everyone. So in 2010, Animal Welfare League Queensland developed a model cooperative desexing program and started with the Gold Coast City Council at the time when we were preparing a breeder permit legislation as local legislation where all kittens would be desexed prior to sale or transfer. And Gold Coast City Council have been funding that program since 2010, and in the last 3 years we've been trying to expand that out across Australia. The aim of this presentation is to inform you of the development of cooperative desexing programs and where we're up to so far, and seek your help to increase the number of councils that are preventing unwanted animals through fair, well-managed cooperative desexing programs. So where are we up to? Well, a recent study of Victorian pounds found that while less than 10% of dogs and puppies are being euthanised in pounds and shelters in Victoria anyway, and probably true in many places, 50% of cats are still being euthanised. And yet in the city of Gold Coast, which is the second largest council in Australia with a population of almost 600,000, the euthanasia rates have been reduced from 57% in 2001-2 to 7% in 2017-18. Prevention of unwanted animals is clearly the key. Thank you to all the team that's over here. There's a lot of animal welfare people here that have been doing a lot of hard work to achieve that. So desexing, particularly for cats, is the key. And so there's many different types of desexing programs in Australia already. We all know that there are, and probably many of you in the room, dedicated small animal welfare groups and individuals who are out there in cities and shires all over Australia, fundraising, usually with op shops, to help people with desexing and work with local vets who reduce their prices. Additionally, in 2001, Denise Bradley started the concept of a community veterinary clinic where no animal would go untreated simply because their owner couldn't afford to pay, with a huge emphasis on desexing, of course. And we now have 3 community veterinary clinics across Australia, and those are the desexing prices that we currently provide. Of course, we can't afford to do desexing free for everybody, although we would love to, but we do certainly do free desexing when it's absolutely necessary, when people can't afford those prices. We also, Sylvana Wenderhold in 2005 started the National Desexing Network based on the concept of Spay USA, and so that was to create a network of veterinarians, hopefully, who would reduce the price of desexing and provide the opportunity for people to access those veterinarians across Australia, and give people the way to find them through either email or phone calls manned 5 days a week, all through the year, for people to phone and find low-cost desexing. However, of the 2,200 vet clinics in Australia, only approximately 8% are registered with the National Desexing Network to provide ongoing low-cost desexing. And NDN registered vets choose their own price reduction. So male cat prices currently range between $60 and $130, with the average around $95, and female cat prices range between $100 and $220, with the average of around $160. Additionally, as you know, most of you are aware of National Desexing Month, which was started in 2005 also, and posters like these are sent out every year to 2,200 vets, 580 councils and over 50 animal welfare organisations, and we encourage vets to offer incentives, even if they won't do it all year round, just for the month of July, and please, for everybody, for an incentive, not just for pension concession card holders. Some vets do offer it to everybody for that month, and almost 200 vets participate. However, that's still only approximately 10% of all vets participating even in National Desexing Month. Most adopt the recommended prices, but some still only offer 10 to 20% discount. So there's clearly some vet resistance to participation and reduction in prices. And from the feedback we get, there's two main areas of resistance. One is that vets deserve a reasonable income, and this is an absolute quote there on the screen. Vets like a standard of living that is supported by a reasonable income for their labours. And yet, some vets in each community are managing to help if the payment covers all their costs, including their own wages and the wages for their vet receptionists and vet nurses. The second argument we're often given is that people shouldn't have a pet if they can't afford to look after it. And we've been given that very strongly over the years. However, the fact is that they do, as you all know here. There are many reasons why this is not a fair point. And so at this point, I just want to read you extracts from a rather long letter that we got from a man who wrote to us at End to End, which I think encapsulates the general attitude of the community out there to cats and what they want to happen to them. And I thought his email was brilliant. So persevere, this is a little story. I'm writing to seek your assistance with regard to the care of stray cats in our area, which by default appears to have fallen to my wife and me. It all started with cats coming to our garden. We have a big back garden, lots of gum trees and bushes, which is ideal for cats. At first, 2 cats, Goldeneye and Sandy, came. They lived in our street at number 9, and we are number 1. Cats wandering. Then a new cat appeared, Vac, with a female, Twinkle, who one day came with 2 kittens. One of the kittens, Rebel, made our garden his home, but Funnyface, the other kitten, went home after each visit in the same direction as Vac and Twinkle. We think they live in a street opposite our house. Honestly, we didn't want to have a cat and all the responsibility that comes with a pet, but we couldn't just chase them away. A few months later, Twinkle came with 3 more kittens. Last November, one of these 3, Little Lucky, had 3 kittens themselves in the shed in our back garden. We planned to find homes for these kittens, but they always ran away when they saw us. Little Lucky's sister, Argie, had 4 kittens in December and brought all of them into our house. Argie disappeared, and we had to get some special powdered food from the vet to feed the kittens. They were so close to each other we felt it wasn't fair to separate them, so we left them together for a few weeks and started looking for homes for them. We talked to people we knew and one of the local vets who used to rehome kittens. However, they were renovating and not in a position to help. They referred us to another vet who ran a shelter, but my wife and I were fearful there was a high risk of them being euthanased. Another vet suggested we take them to the Counsel shelter, but when I said we didn't want them to be killed, she made a gesture which I interpreted as meaning, "What can we do?" which confirmed to me that if we were to take them to the shelter, they would be killed. We were unable to negotiate with the vet to desex them on a pro bono basis, despite this being of benefit to the community and the cats. I talked to various animal welfare groups and they said to surrender the cats to shelters. I find this extreme. The great Greek philosopher Aristotle said something like this: reason is never extreme, it is always in the middle. I rescued 5 kittens plus the mother of one of them because I cared about their welfare, not because my wife and I want a pet. And we are faced with this extreme argument. That is, either we become responsible for them and pay for their desexing and other treatments they may need to stop them breeding, and we are not talking about 1 cat but 6, and pay to feed them for the rest of their lives, or we surrender them to shelters where they'll be put in cages for a length of time, which would make the cats very miserable, and there is a big chance that in the end they will be killed. No one wanted to help. Animal Protection did assist us to locate the animal hospital and gave them a code which entitled us to get our cats desexed, vaccinated and microchipped at half price. However, the animal hospital did not inform us when we agreed to get the cats microchipped that we would have to pay an additional $53 registration fee per cat to the council, $318 for 6 cats, which by default have come into our care but which we did not choose to have. We've already spent $1,000 in vet care, desexing, vaccinations and microchipping, and feel that it is grossly unfair that we are being required to take on the burden of sorting out the responsible existence of these cats because their actual owners have failed to do so. We are also outraged that we are presented with only two alternatives: pay up or abandon the cats to their fate, most certainly death. Why are there not viable alternatives? For example, councils, vets and animal protection societies who purportedly care about animals who actually find them good, safe homes. Or, and here's the crux, councils provide financial support to people like us who have taken on the burden of responsible pet ownership, which their true owners have failed to take on, so that the animals can continue to live in a supportive and caring environment for the rest of their natural lives. Councils find out who the true owners are and make them responsible for their pets and any offspring they have, making sure, of course, that this does not result in animals getting killed. So here we have a person who I think sums up clearly the range of things that can happen and should happen. So we need a rethink. Whose responsibility is it to help residents in need? Provision of subsidised hospitals for humans? State government. Parks, libraries, surf life-saving services? Local government. Discounts on rates? Dog and cat registration for pension concession card holders? We all know that all of those things benefit the whole community by keeping a happy and healthy community. For those who are more disadvantaged, everybody gets helped. However, we so far haven't got all councils to start to invest in desexing, and we need to do that because we all know that animals are helpful in the community. They stop people being lonely, they help people get out and socialise, and we also know that by desexing cats, we're preventing unwanted cats preying on wildlife and the trauma and nuisance and complaint issues that come forward from people who don't like cats. So which groups need subsidies and other support? Well, if we just had each local government putting some funding into desexing subsidies for owners on low incomes, owners with too many cats, and people like the man who wrote that letter who are feeding stray, abandoned and unowned cats who are willing to care for them, then we would not have the huge trauma and the huge cost that councils currently have in managing cats, and the rest of us as well. Now, we know some councils are starting to help residents and offer subsidies, but there's a range of different ways that they're doing that, and some are maybe more effective than others. So the Western Australian Cat Act came in 2011, which required all cats to be sterilised, and the City of Perth has offered an $80 subsidy for cat sterilisation to pensioners and low-income earners. So the $80 goes to the owner. However, an amount paid to the owner may not necessarily help because a lot of vets these days are charging $250 to $350 to desex a female cat. So you take $80 off that, and somebody, this is a lady who we did help in a live-in caravan park, that person still has $180 to $280 to pay, and they can't afford that. And in addition, the cat may be pregnant or in season, and vets charge an additional, sometimes $100 for that. Similarly, the Australian Veterinary Association Victorian Division and the Municipal Councils of Victoria have had a program going for many years now where vets discount their normal desexing prices by a quarter. Councils put in a little bit which is supposed to semi-represent a quarter, which means the owner pays approximately a half. But once again, that means the owner's still got to find $130 to $175, and as well that program requires the cats to be immunised, which is another $100 on top of that, which becomes impossible for people on low incomes. Banyule City Council, Jenny Cottrell, has been doing an amazing job offering a free cat desexing program where the budget is $30,000 and they're desexing 240 cats a year. And the vet charges quite a reasonable price of $116 per cat on average. However, that program is only able to be offered twice a year for 2 weeks each time. So, what is an effective, ethical, justifiable desexing program for councils to fund? I was only talking to a few councils again yesterday, and many of them are struggling to say what structure should it have. So we believe that the owners, many owners, can afford to pay a little bit. So let them pay a little bit, which means councils then have more opportunity to do more desexings. So it must be low enough for the owners to be able to afford if they're on a low income. Usually somewhere around $50 seems to be affordable. Vets need to receive a payment to cover all their costs, which include the wages for their vets, their vet nurses and receptionists, and all the materials. The council subsidy that they put in as part of their share needs to be low enough to maximise the number of residents receiving help and to minimise the number of unwanted cats. And the animal welfare groups can manage the service and contribute financially when there's some people who can't afford to pay anything. Hence the NDN Cooperative Desexing Program, which is basically the principle that those four things are the basis of this Cooperative Desexing Program. So this is an ongoing targeted low-cost desexing program to help those in need in each city and region. Owners pay a bit, local vet clinics contribute by having a standard price that they have to accept, which covers their costs. The National Desexing Network contributes by running the program free of charge, and councils pay a subsidy. Councils budget a set amount, which ranges between $5,000 and $55,000, which directly subsidises desexing costs of residents in need. And it's not just pension concession card holders, because there's a lot of single parent families, people who have marriage breakups with kids who need help, as well as people with large numbers of cats and people like the man in the letter who's just simply trying to do the best they can with some stray animals. So every about 3 years, we do increase the prices that vets receive. Just flick that up to show you that's what it previously was up until the 1st of September, which was just a few days ago. But currently, male cat castration, the owner pays $55, the council puts in $45 and the vet receives $100. Female cat, owner pays $65, council puts in $85, and the vet receives $150. And as a little incentive for people who have more than one cat, it's $50 for each additional cat. And if they're pregnant or in season, the owner doesn't have to pay anything extra. That comes out of the council fund. We also require consistent conditions from the vets that participate. They must provide a 24-hour pain relief without extra charge, and they must not require vaccination, because that can cause a person not to be able to participate. NDN currently manages this program free of charge for councils, and we invite the local vets to participate. We manage the owner calls, we issue the vouchers, we manage the council funding and reimburse the vets and organise promotional materials. So in the last 3 years, we've expanded it to 12 councils, and with many more councils expressing a great deal of interest, because it makes it nice and easy for them to participate. So they're the councils that are currently participating, and they contribute a range of from $6,000 to $52,000. Of course, the focus is on cats because of their faster breeding rate and higher euthanasia rates, but some councils also have thought about it for dogs, and Central Highlands in the centre of Queensland, which is a fairly remote and rural area, and they have issues with lots of dogs and puppies and stray dogs and puppies. They actually have included dogs in their program, and we're very happy to do that. Of course, it's more expensive to desex dogs, which means their money doesn't go as far, but if you have a dog problem, then dogs are important as well. And their dog prices for the owners range between $50 and $80 based on the size of the dog. So the benefits to councils, and this is all in a document that you were to get in your satchels, but unfortunately we had a bit of mix-up with printing, and so they will appear in the room at some stage in the next couple of days for you to collect. But this is a document we've created with all of this information that you can take back and give to your councillors and your council animal management departments as evidence that, first of all, if you do these programs, the numbers of kittens coming into pounds and shelters will reduce. as another example that isn't in the document, Lockyer Valley just recently gave me some information that they were happy for me to share. So Lockyer Valley is a rural community with 41,000 people. They've been putting in $10,000 for the last 2 years, and last year they got 138 cats desexed with that money. And their outcome is a decrease in the number of cats impounded in the last 2 years. An actual reduction was approximately 50 cats, but when it's factored in that almost 100 cats were surrendered from 3 properties alone, the actual difference was 150 fewer cats. It was also noted that there were fewer kittens impounded and a reduction in the number of young cats and kittens being impounded from areas where the uptake of the desexing program has been the greatest. The second argument that you can give to councils is it's actually cheaper to put funding into desexing, and for those councils here today that you can take back to your councillors. So on average it costs $220 to send a person out to collect a cat, hold it for 4 days and then kill it. And the average of this desexing program that I've been explaining to you is $75, which is a saving of $145 per cat. So for a council to put in $20,500, there's a saving of $43,500 in the first year alone. Similarly, if councils are already involved in rehoming, the saving is exponentially more because, as you all know, it costs more to rehome a cat than to kill it. And so there's a saving of $163,500. So that's all in that document. Of course, also another benefit for council is its positive animal management and greater job satisfaction and more community support for council. And it actually helps people comply with desexing permit laws. I would have thought that if it's now compulsory to have your cat desexed in ACT, Tasmania, Western Australia and South Australia, surely it's an obligation of state governments and local governments to contribute to the people who can't afford to comply with the law. It also reduces nuisance issues, as we know, and it actually helps prevent unowned feral cats. Most of you would be aware that in South Australia there was a study done that showed that 46% of owned cats are not contained to their property at all times, and less than half of those owned cats are desexed at 3 to 6 months. Cats can be pregnant by 4 months of age. So there we have it. We have a lot of cats wandering around undesexed, as that letter showed that I read to you before. And so if we're going to prevent unowned cats, we have to get this happening. And we know, as you know, the community will help. So this is Misty, one of the little feral cats that we trapped and brought in for desexing. She took 3 months before she could be rehomed. This is Billie, her little kitten. Some of our staff over there will remember the struggles we went through with this. A lovely lady with 2 young boys wanted to adopt Billie, and Billie was quite a wild little kitten, very unpredictable. And here we have this mother who knew exactly what to do with this little kitten. There it is sitting in the box. She's obviously taught her 2 little, quite very active boys to not touch that kitten, be very careful with it, and inevitably it became a loving family pet. So I won't go through this I'll do this very quickly, but because we can go through this in more depth and it's in the documents you'll get to take home. But basically how it works is council budgets a set amount. NDN then contacts all the local vets to invite them to participate. Council pays the budgeted amount to NDN and we manage that amount. NDN provides materials for promotion, such as this. We ask them, the council, for their logo. We put the logo on the flyer, nice and easy for them. They then start handing it out. We also do a media release for them. The cat owners phone NDN to determine if eligible. We then issue them with a voucher if they are eligible, with an expiry date of 1 month to encourage them to get it done quickly. Cat owners make the appointment as usual on the day they give the voucher to the vet and pay their share. The vet clinic returns the vouchers with a claim form at the end of the month, and we use the council funds to reimburse the vets. And we keep records and provide reports on the numbers desexed, male, female, pregnant in season and so on, to the councils. Now, council processes do take time, and many councils need to be aware of the program before they do their budget, but it's amazing the number of councils who do manage to scrape up $3,000 to $5,000 just from their normal budget just to get it started, and then they start to budget regularly for it. There's been no council so far that's pulled back once they've started. We also have had to increase our staff, of course, so any councils who are here today or any councils you do get to participate, the more notice we have, the better, so that we can be prepared to look after all these programs. And shelter and rescue groups who are here today, we would love you to approach your councils with the documentation we've given you and see if you can even, if you feel that you can't convince them, then send me an email and I'll try and call them and explain how it works. This is, of course, if you don't already have a really good, functional, effective desexing program happening in your area. Many of you have, I know. And councils who are here today, any existing desexing programs you have, we would love to put them on our NDN website. That's the whole purpose of it. But we would also love to do a program for you. And so you either see us here today or you go onto the website and under, at the top of the page, you'll see where you can get help, and go to Counsels and you'll get all the information there. We promote Council NDN Cooperative Desexing Programs on the NDN website, but people still have to phone us to find out if they're eligible. But we also promote other council desexing programs and other organisations' programs, so please let us know if you're not already on the site. The resources will be available. They're not in your bag yet, but they'll be there for you very shortly. And we're also happy to go and do presentations at regional council meetings or state government meetings and send group emails to whole council regional groups if that helps. So what's great about proactive cooperative desexing programs? Reduced costs to councils, positive and ethical outcomes for local governments, cats and dogs, owners in need, non-owners, vets and wildlife. Thank you.